Chapter 48 Secret Project Summary. Mina and Mei's secret project is finally revealed. The next morning passes all too quickly for Ochako. Well, she's excited to finally start heading home. She's definitely going to miss this planet. It didn't take long to pack up the remaining items they have here at the camp. Upon waking up, the remaining blankets were folded and ready to go, and after breakfast, their last cookware and food was packed. The camp they'd lived in for the past 3 months looked barren. The only evidence that anyone had ever been there was the remnants of that morning's fire and the crashed escape pod. Now, all they had left was to say goodbye to Ayalin and Mr. Zyuntak. At least, Ochako thought that was all. As she was finishing brushing through her hair, she'd gotten it trimmed again since the Festival of Lights, to keep her bob for the road. With her fingers, Mina and Mei walked out in front of the group. Priorpa and Fastel moved to stand a little to the side of them. Both girls had wide smiles on their faces as they hid something behind their backs, and Priorpa was rocking on his feet. Ochako had a sneaking suspicion that this had to do with the secret project they'd been working on since the big city. "Before we head into town," Mina started, barely keeping her excitement in check, "we have a surprise for everyone!" Everyone turned their attention away from the last preparations to look at them. Ochako couldn't help but get excited as Mina bounced in place. Her enthusiasm was contagious. Denki tried to peek around to see what the girls had hidden behind their backs, but Mei shot him a look. Ochako wasn't exactly sure what this particular expression meant, but Denki paled and immediately backed off with his hands up in surrender. Izuku seemed a little shaken by Mei's look, but he had a knowing expression on his face that suggested he had a good idea of what the surprise was. "So," Mina started, "everyone knows that our hero costumes were beyond repair after we escaped." She didn't even pause before continuing. "And that sucks, especially since we're still planning on being heroes, even in space. But that gave me the idea to make, drum roll please." Mei immediately tapped her feet in a shoddy drum roll. "These!" Both Mina and Mei pulled a stack of wrapped parcels from behind their backs. Mina?" Ochako slowly said. "We can't tell what they are." "Oh," Mina said with a dumbstruck look on her face. "Right." Placing 2 out of the 3 of her own parcels on Mei's stack, nearly covering the girl's face by the action, Mina opened the lone purple package she had in her hands. As colorful lengths of fabric unfurled, Mina continued with her announcement. "We made new hero costumes for everyone!" she shouted. In Mina's hands was an outfit that resembled her old costume. Ochako's eyes were drawn to the bright purple and cyan leggings. They looked almost exactly like the bodysuit on Pinky's original costume, except there were maroon straps around the upper part of the thighs. Next, there was a long-sleeved, pale yellow jacket with furry accents. For shoes, there were maroon and yellow boots with crisscross laces. Last but not least, there was a bodysuit primarily made of a sturdy-looking cyan fabric. It was obviously armored, more overtly in places like the shoulders and lower legs. The bodysuit showed signs of Mei's handiwork, with concealed tech in areas that looked as though they could retract to make it better fit under the primary costume. Ochako thought it was amazing. The faux fur accents looked so fluffy. It definitely suited the pink-skinned girl better than the yellow shawl she was currently wearing. The new costume was definitely reminiscent of her normal one, but it was its own thing entirely. While their hero costumes were made to be worn on the job, this costume looked like it could be worn all day. And they didn't have the largest choice of wardrobe in space, so that was probably the goal. "That looks awesome, Mina!" Denki cheered. "Thanks," she replied. "But it wasn't just me. Mei honestly did most of the designing. Priorpa and Fastel and I didn't even know how to sew when we started, and she's the genius support student." "Hey!" Mei chastised from behind the pile of wrapped packages. You did most of the color swatching and measuring, while Pirpa and Fastel did most of the sewing. We all worked really hard on these babies. Pirpa let out an adorable chirp at the praise, and Fastel preened under her words. Mina smiled at the support gremlin. I also stopped you from adding mini flamethrowers to every design, so I guess you're right. It was a group effort. Izuku and Dinky shuddered at the mention of flamethrowers, and Ochako wasn't sure what to think of that. Honestly, they often have weird responses to things that didn't quite make sense to Ochako. Though, now that she pays attention, Mei's grin was slightly manic at the mention of flamethrowers, but Ochako didn't have time to think about it any deeper when Mei spoke up again. Each of the costumes is just as specialized as a normal hero costume. I didn't have the same outrageous budget as I normally have at UA, but the pure quality difference in tech makes up for it. The bodysuits are armored and are functional spacesuits. Certain items of clothing are actually support gear, like the shoes of Mina's costume. They have little mechanical openings that allow acid through. Plus, they can be electrified, because why not? Each suit has a place to keep your weapon as well, and all costumes have tons of hidden pockets because I live by the philosophy that anything without pockets should be burned. Now everyone grab their costumes. The wrapping paper is color coordinated, of course. Mina squealed. The others looked just as excited as Ochako was. She couldn't wait to see what her costume looked like as well as the others. It reminded her of the first heroics class, when she saw her new classmates' hero costumes for the first time. Though, she expected the costumes Mina and Mei designed to look much better than what she was given on that day. Seriously, who thought heels on a hero costume were a good idea? Ochako grabbed the pale pink parcel off the top of Mei's pile. The crinkly wrapping sounded under her touch. Wasting no time, she ripped the colorful shell off to reveal what was underneath. The first thing she noticed was the mint green. When they first landed on the planet, and she saw the sunrise, she'd mentioned to Izuku and Mei how she wanted to add the color to her hero costume when they got back to Earth. Somehow, Mei had remembered what she'd said all those months ago and added it to her costume. Ochako's already bright smile widened at the realization. Sometimes, to an outsider, it might seem that Mei wasn't paying attention to her when she talked, but she knew that wasn't the case. Just because the pink cat wasn't looking at her, or if she was fidgeting with an invention, didn't mean she wasn't listening. It warmed Ochako's heart to know that Mei didn't forget that offhanded comment, instead taking it seriously and integrating the design change into this new costume. The boots were almost entirely mint green, with only a touch of pink and white accents. Just like her old boots, they went to the knee, though these ones were a lot sleeker, stopping just before a pink metal knee guard, and without heels. At close inspection, it looked like they were built on the husk of Mei's hover boots that she was wearing when they were taken. That would probably be super useful, once she got the hand of them, that is. In the package, there was also a brown pair of shorts and black leggings. They were definitely more casual than her hero costume, that's for sure. Something interesting was the brown leather thigh bag with white straps. At first, she thought it might be for her staff, but after peeking inside, that turned out to be not the case. Inside was a neatly packed first aid kit. It was nice to see another reminder that her friends really knew her. She was training to be a rescue hero, after all. There was a pink belt reminiscent of her first hero costume. At the back of it was a slot for her collapsible staff. Ochako liked that it was hidden. People often underestimated her because of the way she looked. Hell, during the UA Sports Festival, people thought she was weak just because she was a girl. However, she'd learned that this was something she could use to her advantage. Having a weapon up front and center might not help that image, so this was great. The final piece of outerwear was a cropped white jacket. It was littered with a few small patches, breaking up the white. Currently, the patches were just solid color, but she could probably get Mina to replace them if she found some more interesting ones on their travels. There were also a few pink stripe accents on the long-sleeve jacket. Then there was the undersuit. In this, she could see even more design elements from her original costume. The main colors were white and black, but even here there were splashes of pink and mint as well. Like Mina's costume, there were some areas that looked more heavily armored than the rest. The shoulders and lower legs definitely had quite a bit extra. There was knee protection, even though the outer outfit already had knee guards. Then there were the arm braces. They looked like a more compact version of her grappling bracers, just pink and mint instead of white. Suddenly, Mei popped up beside her. "Those can be electrified, you know," the gremlin said. Calming her slightly racing heart at the abrupt appearance, Ochako managed out a response. "Why?" "Because why not? I would have made those boots electric as well, but I couldn't get it to work right with the hover setting and shock absorption." Ochako guesses she should count herself lucky that the costume doesn't have any flamethrowers. "Probably." "By the way," Ochako said, "thanks for adding the mint green to my costume. I can't believe you remembered that. I really appreciate it." Mei grinned wider at the compliment. "Of course I remembered. Not only are you my friend, but I make sure to remember anything and everything related to changing someone's support gear. What kind of designer would I be if I didn't?" "A normal one," Ochako replied with a giggle. "Where's the fun in that?" Mei playfully retorted. Izuku smiled as they slipped on familiar red high tops. They had gotten them just right. This new hero costume the quartet had created fit perfectly. The lightweight leg bracers sat snugly over thick black baggy pants, and the brown leather jacket with green accents was amazing. Then there were the 2 brown thigh bags, each big enough to fit one of his notebooks and secure enough to easily support the weight. And, oh boy, was Mei not kidding about the pockets. There were so many. On the support gear side of things, there was an arm strap to hold his new collapsible shield, and some bright red arm bracers. They were suspiciously reminiscent of Melissa's design from Island. Izuku didn't think that Mei and her had ever met, but the idea sent a sudden jolt of fear through him. Besides that horrifying thought, that must never be allowed to come to fruition, the gauntlets also had the added alteration of aiding with his Air Force blasts. When he got One for All back, that is. Anyway, everyone's costume looked really great. Mina's was quite similar to her hero costume, though others, like his, had been more heavily changed to be casual for everyday wear. Izuku is so glad that these are comfortable. He'll definitely be opting to wear this over the baggy clothing from Oxius. Speaking of more casual costumes, Kachan's had definitely been toned down. Gone was the mask and hair spikies. Instead of his gauntlet grenades, Kachan had a much more compact silver version that looked like it could expand when in use. The blonde's main outfit consisted of a baggy green jacket, again with the pockets, Mei, and baggy black pants. Silver knee guards sat above green and red boots. From the glimpse of Kachan's bodysuit he saw the blonde's signature red X over its chest. It was nice, but Izuku was sure Kachan's costume wouldn't stay the way it was for long. He knew that the blonde was very meticulous when it came to his hero costume designs, and he didn't doubt that it would be the same for this costume. Denki's was similar to an old aviator's uniform, just with some leather accents and thigh-high boots. The theme also fit with the fact that he would be the main pilot. Izuku would be his co-pilot. Though there was also the fact that the jacket was cropped because, of course. And Mei's was basically what she wore at UA. Green coveralls and a ribbed black tank top. The literal only difference was the gun holster to her thigh. Mei's normal clothes back home were armored because, of course they were. And the undersuit. Well, and the backpack that was surely filled with inventions and tools. All of them had changed into their new clothes in preparation for their departure. Even Pyerpa and Fastel. It turns out that the quartet had also made some new clothes for the Orsiers. They both had armored body/spacesuits like the rest of them, but apparently, their species tended not to be the biggest fan of full-body clothes. Currently, Pyerpa was wearing a pair of lightweight, flowy green pants he'd made. Fastel had on a blue and purple cloak with a silver clasp. It went most of the way down their body and had lots of hidden pockets on the inside for collecting things, one of which contained their taser. Pyerpa's pants also had a custom pocket for his taser, but he left it back on the ship. Izuku thought that the two's new clothes looked nice, but he knew they were disappointed that they couldn't find the materials they were used to on their planet. Apparently, their fashion was mostly flowy, sheer, lightweight clothes in a variety of colors, then accessorized with dangling shells and other aquatic-related items. Hopefully, the group would be able to find a more oceanic planet on their way to hiatus to get the materials. Oh yeah! Mina suddenly spoke. There's one more thing. Mei dipped into the trees and emerged with a small box. Now he knew what this was. Thanks to Izuku, Mina started as Mei opened the box. We also have collapsible space helmets! Each is a custom design to go with each of your new costumes. When Mina and Mei had approached him about making collapsible space helmets about a month ago, Izuku was a little confused. Mei, he understood. She was always encouraging him to flesh out his own designs. But Mina? He wasn't sure what that was about until they'd showed him the aesthetics they were going for. Ones that were very familiar. He'd gotten pretty far along with his idea at that point, so it hadn't been too difficult to modify it for different styles. He and Mei had been able to finish them all pretty quickly, and seeing them now, there was this warmth in his chest. His inventions were actually going to be used. Something he came up with was going to help the people he cared about stay safe. The helmets could not only be activated by touching a single button on the side, but they also automatically triggered when they sensed a dangerous lack of oxygen. Space was scary, and this would help keep them safe. He couldn't help but smile at the thought. They didn't need them for now, though, so they left them on the ship alongside their weapons. They were really all packed up, and now all they had left to do before they took off was say goodbye. This was really it.